So moving on in terms of transvestites, we're moving into transvestites. The Free Speech Union has recently done a Freedom of Information investigation into transgender policies of all the government organisations. And this, I think, is quite chilling. So, there's a public sector body called the Information Commissioner's Office. I don't know what it does.
I'd never heard of them until this story came.
I didn't know you'd seen the story. So, they've looked into this transgender policy of the Information Commissioner Office. So, they did the normal stuff in this about transgender, use the correct pronouns and all that crap as the usual thing, dictating to their staff what they need to do. But then, in this particular policy, they said they've said to staff, you need to think of transvestite men as women. Think.
Yeah.
So you've not just got to use the right pronouns and call her Debbie or whatever his name is. Yeah. You have to think of transvestite men. I mean, this brings to mind 1984. All these things, basically. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, this has been going on for a long time, and lots of these organisations have very similar policies. We hear stories all the time, especially in the civil service, of these training courses. And that goes right back to that saying, trans women are women.
Yeah.
We had a Labour Conservative MP, what's her name? She's quite popular to be the next leader.
Badenoch, Kemi
Badenoch. No, the white woman who held a sword at the coronation.
Yes, I can't remember her name, but I know who you mean. Yeah.
Well, she stood up in this fast box a couple of years ago and went, trans women are women, trans men are men. Her brother is gay and he's big in the LGBT community.
Yeah.
She's captured on that.
Yeah.
This has gone straight through the institutions and our political class and universities, so that doesn't shock me at all.
What shocks me about this is not just that you have to abide by their perceived, non-offensive terminology. It's the fact they're telling you to think that way. That's the bit.
That's what all these training courses are for, to tell you how to think.
And that's just, and why can't they see when they say these things that this is totalitarianism?
Because they're on the right side. Because they're on the right side of history. Because they're good people. Good people don't do things wrong. Good people, we may take some of your rights away, but we're doing it for your good. We had this conversation about when I worked for the council, as in, if only we could control your lives, you'd all have better lives, You idiots don't know what to do. I know better because I've been to university and I've got a degree now in gender studies. I got a 2-1, by the way, not a 2-2. I got a 2-1. I'm really clever. And I've got this job now with the council and I've got a great pension. And you work in a factory and you've been unemployed previously and your kid's got ADHD. If only I could run your life, it'd be so much better. Yeah,
and they are doing.
Yeah.
And in the guidance, it said that if you don't do these things, if you don't think of transvestite men as women, if you don't use the correct pronouns, and the word terminologies, you will be held accountable.
Yeah, that's a threat.
Yeah.
They can't say sack you because they know they can't do that officially. They'll try to sack you.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, that's a threat. Do as we say, or else.
Yeah.
That's the training.
I think that's just horrific. All this stuff is woke. Is it? You and I use the term woke.
Yeah.
And there was an article again, I think it was in Spiked, about what is woke and where did it come from and what does it mean now. So I read this. It's quite a long article actually. I read it and it means politically aware, stay woke. But where it originated, which is what quite interesting, it originated from a black. They believe the first time it was used was by a black jazz guy called Hudson Ledbetter. I think it was called Leadbelly is his name. And he was referring to a situation where there had been racist violence against black people because some black students had been accused of raping some white women. This is in America, obviously, in the 60s. It might have been the 50s, actually. And he said, best stay woke. And what he meant was, best stay awake, guys. Watch out. There's violent attacks happening.
Poor English.
Yeah. It's poor English. Yeah. He meant to say, but I'm saying I don't know. Maybe sound patronising by saying that, but I'm assuming saying best stay awake.
Stay awake to everything that's going wrong in our lives and this racism. That's what he meant.
That's what he meant. Yeah. And to me, that's a perfectly valid thing for him to say. Best stay. And then it became. So then it was started to be used more by the black community.
Yeah.
But then it was appropriated by the white community in the 60s to be about being politically, what they called politically aware. Then it really started to gather pace when BLM, your favourite organisation, adopted it in 2014, and then it's just exploded.
Yeah.
But what does it mean now? Because actually now, even the left, the progressive left, who loved the woke thing, and it was taken as a very positive thing, it's now regarded as a pejorative, really. So if you say somebody's woke, it's now a negative. Yeah. And the progressive left are bemoaning this now because they wanted this as their slogan, we're woke or whatever. Now it's being perceived as something, if you're woke, you don't know what you're doing, you have very bizarre views. So where do you think it is now, woke? I believe it's still there. It's not called woke anymore, but I think it's still there.
For my definition of woke, it really is where political correctness met social media. So up to the time of social media, it was called political correctness. And then social media took off and that word gained ground. And that's what we mean now by the word woke. Because people say, what do you mean by woke? What do you mean by woke? Well, what I mean by woke is online political correctness. That's woke. And we've had political correctness for 150 years, if not longer. For me, ground zero of all this is the beginning of feminism in the 1800s, middle of the 1800s, that came out of the anti-slavery movement. That was a social justice cause, getting rid of slavery in America, and rightly so. And when that was over, all these people went, right, what's the next fight? Lots of women were involved in the anti-slavery movement in America and in the UK, even though we don't have slaves here. So we had all these social justice movements. We then picked up the next cause, which was, women. And that's when the victimhood started. I wrote a book on this, available on Amazon. And
I was thinking you should have your books on the wall or on a shelf behind. Anyway,
so it all started there. But you're right about the woke bit. I read that several years ago. It was a black African term meaning stay awake to the injustices we're facing as a people. Then the leftoids took it over and it was like, I'm woke. It became something to be pleased about. There's articles in the American papers, The Guardian, about how you should be woke, and then it got turned into a pejorative, and then those same papers then started saying, we never said we were woke, you've made that word up. It's like, no, we've got articles off you saying everyone should be woke. But now we've killed that word now as something to be proud of, but the problem's still here. It's just this long-term political correctness. And do you know where the word political correctness comes from?
No.
That's a Soviet story from Russia, where you could say to somebody, what we need to do is A and B. And they'll go, I agree with you, but that's not politically correct. We need to do C and D. But C and D won't work. It doesn't matter. C and D is what we need to do because that's politically correct. And that's where that terminology is directly from Soviet Russia.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
So it's doing what your political masters demand you to do, not doing what is right.
All right, so this is correct.
Yes.
Never mind that. This is politically correct.
Yes.
We'll do this instead. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So just the very analysis of that word just proves the point that the whole thing's a bit of a sham in that case. And has its link
to communism.
Yes.
Yeah. Another one that people don't know is the word brainwashing. So brainwashing started, or the term brainwashing came out of the Korean War. So Americans would be captured by the North Koreans and the Chinese mainly fighting, and they would be told when they came home what would happen would be they'd be bombarded with information, and if they then said the wrong thing, they were told, you need to go wash your brain of these wrong thoughts. Go wash your brain, because they're wrong, and that's where the term brainwashing came from.
Oh, I see. So, I think in terms of summary of woke then, I think what you're saying is woke has ceased to exist as a term for the things that the progressive left or the progressives want to describe.
They've abandoned the word.
They've abandoned the word. So, what's taking its place? What is there a word that's taken its place?
Social justice.
Social
That's
justice.
what they tend to call themselves now.
Right.
So if you go on Twitter to all these nutcases, they don't tend not to have the woke in their bio now. It's social justice.
Social justice, and that's a big umbrella term that covers loads of stuff, I guess.
It covers everything they want it to cover.
Yeah.
If they were genuine, and they would remove the word social and would have the word justice.
Yeah.
Who's not for justice?
Yeah.
Social justice just means justice the way I dictate justice.
Yeah. I remember when I was on Twitter, there were certain logos and stuff on people's names that sent a chill down my spine.
Yeah.
And they were often pronouns.
Yeah.
They were often woke.
Yeah.
And they were the rainbow flag. The rainbow flag particularly, as soon as I saw it in anybody's bio, I would recoil, basically.
3 flags I hate looking at who always turn to be nutcases. Rainbow flag, EU flag, and the BLM fist.
Yes. Yeah.
Them, if you've got them 3, then you're top marks, lunatic.
Yeah. What I don't understand is, why don't people realise that putting any sort of symbol like that potentially will have a life and will potentially have a connotation at some point in their future? That's the bit I don't get.
Because they're on the right side of history.
Until it's not, and then they take it up. But what do they think at that moment when they take woke out of their biography, or take the Palestine flag out of their,
They replace it with the latest thing you put in, which might be the Ukrainian flag.
Yes.
Which might be the Iranian flag once we bomb the crap out of them. There'll be something else to put in there to show that you're still on the right side.
Yes, that you're still in the tribe.
Yeah, it's all virtue signalling. I'm on the right side of history.
Yeah. I just, the very fact that a person will do that automatically, whatever the flag is, suggests there's a problem, isn't there?
Yeah.
They have to get some sort of validation or verification.
To show what tribe they're in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And anyone who uses the term right side of history is an idiot.
Yes.
Because when you're living today, you have no idea what the right side of history is.
Correct.
Only historians tell us the right side of history.
Yes.
You don't know what your side you're on at the moment.
Yeah.
And then sides change.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? And you don't know whether you're on the right side of history. I mean, recently, we try not to go international, but I've reached a point now with Trump that when I say, and when I first became aware of Trump, I thought, like most of the progressives and most of the Democrats or most left-wingers, I was like, oh, what a terrible man, blah, 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 whatever, and all that sort of stuff. Now I say to people, if we talk about American politics, unashamedly, I am getting braver as I get older. By the time I'm 90, I'll be incredibly brave. I actually say, I like Trump. I think he's great.
Yeah.
And then I don't say anything else.
Yeah.
Because what I used to say was, I like Trump, I think he's great, but I wish he wouldn't do this.
Yeah.
And I don't even do that anymore.
Yeah.
I just say I like him, I think he's great. But I've noticed quite a few people now are saying, oh, I like Trump if he didn't it's almost like, he did some good stuff, but they always caveat him. I've stopped caveating now. But I don't know if I'm on the right side of history with Trump. That's what I think. Yeah. That's what I believe. I think that, the things he's done for America have been great. And I think he said it, didn't he, with this Iranian thing kicking off. He said that wouldn't have happened if I'd have been in power, and I believe it.
I don't think Ukraine would have been invaded.
Yeah.
I don't think that would happen. The Gaza thing probably would have happened because they're just crazies.
They stand alone.
Yeah, exactly. But other things would have happened because you had a strong leader. Now Trump's very divisive, as we all know. Is he a nice person? Well, A, we don't know, and B, there's a good chance he's not.
Yeah.
He's narcissistic, he's bombastic.
Yeah.
But you look at the history, you look at his record of when he was president for 4 years, and I don't look at that now. What I look at now is, what does America need? What does the world need? And I tell you what, we need change.
Yes.
And he'll bring it.
Yeah.
He won't do everything correctly.
Yeah.
But we need something. We need to roll that dice, and I'm hoping he does some good things and changes.
I'm pretty sure he's going to win.
It looks like it.
Yeah, I can't see. I don't want to jinx it.
Yeah.
But I can't see him losing now, because everything that happens now, he just gets stronger.
Yeah.
And stronger.
Well, I read an article the other day that Michelle Obama's thinking of standing.
I don't think anybody likes Michelle Obama.
She still has that. Lots of people who vote Trump don't like her, but lots of other people like her.
Yeah.
But that's how panicked the Republicans are.
Yeah.
I hope he wins. We need that breath of fresh air. We need him to finish the business. He'll have 4 years to do.
Yeah.
And because he knows he's only got 4 years, I think he wasted a lot of time in his first 4 years. Believe it or not going as hard as he wanted to.
Yes, and he said this, hasn't he?
Yeah.
What he said is, I wish I'd just done what I want. And it's interesting, because this is what you're saying about your campaign, isn't it? You're going to do stuff if you win the mayoral campaign, but you're working on the basis you're not going to be re-elected. So it doesn't matter if people don't like it.
Yeah. And not only that, I'm guaranteeing everybody in power across the country, all the 10 councils of Greater Manchester, are all going to hate me. So therefore, I've got no intentions of working with them, because it'll take my time trying to work with them. I'm going to do all the stuff I know I can do that I don't need any of them to help with.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to plough on and do the stuff I want to do, because I don't need any partners in people who don't want me to succeed.
Yeah. So you need to assess, like Trump, you've got to assess the powers you have, and you can do unilaterally without any input, and just do them. And I think that's a great approach.
That's my plan.
Because that's what people...
Because they'll weigh you down. It'll be 2 years of discussions with Oldham Council.
Yeah.
And they're like, we can't do it. I've just wasted 2 years. And they're going to do everything to stop me.
Yes.
And because the mayor holds some of the budget, I can blackmail some of them.
Yeah.
No, you're not having money for that unless you do that. I'll withhold your money.
Yeah, yeah. And the reason it would work, that, is because you don't care about being re-elected.
I'm not a politician. I'm not here to make friends. I'm not here to be re-elected. I'm not here to be Prime Minister. I'm here to do 3 years of heavy lifting, and then that's the end of it. People better than me, more intelligent than me, will come along and build on the foundations I've laid.
It would be great if you got in. But anyway, that's a separate conversation. Just moving on from woke, again, something I find interesting. The British Transport Police have launched the bursary. I don't know if you read this or seen this. So they've launched a bursary for, not black students, by the way. So this is British African students to study law. So this is basically, if you're a British African student and you want to study law, we've got a bursary, but only British African students can apply. And what they want to fight in the force is a thing called Afriphobia.
Yeah, new word made up.
New word made up. So they somehow, and how the hell they got there, I've got no idea, they've determined there's a thing called Afriphobia, which is not racism or fear of black people. It's a particular phobia or hatred of
people who come from Africa.
People who come from Africa, such as Elon Musk.
Yeah.
so they've launched a bursary. They'll give money to a British African student studying law, potentially, so they can help them then. So probably no obligation to go work there. But the reason this is interesting is my son trained with PwC. So he's a chartered accountant trained with PwC. When he's in PwC, he forwarded me an advert in PwC, which was for a scholarship funded by PwC for black students to study chartered accounting. That only black students could apply.
Yeah.
So for me, unless I'm missing something, and I'm interested in you enlightening me if I'm wrong, I see this as racial discrimination.
Yeah.
Is it racial discrimination?
By the law, no, it's not. Because racial discrimination in this context is only if it's a paid job.
Right.
So training, bursaries, all those things don't come under the legislation. only paid employment.
So you're allowed to be, in my view, racist if it's not...
Yeah, paid employment, yeah.
Okay.
So when Stormzy gave 10 million to universities only for black students for bursaries, a English millionaire then tried to give 10 million to the universities for poor white working class males for bursaries, and every university refused the money and said no, it's racist.
But it wasn't illegal.
Well, it was illegal, but they didn't want to do it because they did not perceive white working class males as worthy of bursaries to go to their university. So they turned the money down. Have you ever heard of a university turning money down?
That is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, just on that point, and this is, and by the way, I'm not saying that British African students shouldn't get a bursary to study Afriphobia, but in terms of the actual most, what's the word I'm looking for, the people who have the worst position in British society, my understanding is it's not young black men in this country. And can you tell me more about that? Because
so it depends what matrix you're looking at. So if you're looking at education, the group that does worst and goes to university the least is white working class males.
Yes.
So black males go to university more than white working class males do. You look at prisons, we all think black males are overrepresented in prisons, which they are, but the group that's even more overrepresented in jails are white travellers.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you look through all these things, and sometimes it may be, and the Asian group's doing worse or the black group's doing worse, but over many things it's white working class boys who are failing education in this country. And for this story, I worked with the British Transport Police many times. They were actually, 20 years ago, they were actually better than Greater Manchester Police. The officers were more professional, harder working, went above and beyond. There was a lot of work with them. They were absolutely great. But they've took a dive now. It started a couple of years ago, the first time I realised, when they put an was it on Twitter? They put an advertisement on Twitter, a recruitment tweet, saying, we support LGBT, If you don't support it, don't apply to work for us.
Oh yes, I remember that, yeah.
So that's discrimination straight away.
Yeah.
And this story now, so Afriphobia. The first thing I'd like to ask him is, why are you only picking black African? Because there's many people in Africa, especially North Africa, who are brown, not black.
Yeah.
So you're saying there's such thing as Afriphobia, but by your advertisement, you've now discriminated against people of brown African descent.
Yeah.
So they've shown their racism there straight away. I would say that also includes the Caribbean, because I reckon they will say, oh no, Caribbean, black people in the Caribbean are black African descent, because that's where they came from. So I don't think they're discriminating against the Caribbeans. I think they'll word that for that.
Right. But they're discriminating against the brown
Africans. Yeah,
Well,
the brown Caribbeans, the brown Africans.
There's lots of Asians in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
There's lots of whites in the Caribbean who've been there for generations. Yeah. And there's lots of whites in Africa as well, in South Africa, who've been there for generations as well.
So discriminate against all of them.
Yeah.
The woman who's running, the Chief Constable of the British Transport Police, I don't know who appoints the Chief Constable for the British Transport Police. It's the Police Crime Commissioner who appoints Chief Constables for forces locally. So it must be the Home Office, I don't know, worth looking into. A blonde, pretty woman, that's who runs the British Transport Police. You look at her and you go, yes, we know why you're sat in that chair. You're a diversity recruitment. You're a woman. You've been pushed up the ranks, and here you are now, Chief Constable, endorsing this rubbish.
But she may not be. She may be incredibly talented and very capable. But going back to your point, when you see people in these positions, automatically you think, is that a diversity hire? That's what you're saying.
Automatically. And 99 times out of 100, you'll be correct. It's a diversity hire. And the reason why she's a problem, again, is because there's far too many women in the police force. Right? There's too many. There's many places in the police force where we need women, and women should be working and be police officers. There's spaces for them. But this drive to get 50-50 is killing all our police forces because most women are not up for the job. And most women don't want to do the job, so therefore we're picking women out of a smaller and smaller pool of women who want to be police officers. And by definition, it's full of rubbish police officers. So that's not saying all women are rubbish police officers. I've worked with some who are amazing, and they should remain police officers. But we keep lowering the bar and we're getting more and more rubbish. You saw the video yesterday of that special constable in London telling some gospel singer on the street,
oh yes,
you cannot sing church songs outside.
Yeah.
You need the permission of the church to sing those songs. Like, are you mental?
Yeah. I just want to defend the police there because that is, that I'm 100% sure that is not a police policy or a legal requirement. That's just a very thick woman.
Incompetent police officer.
Yes, yeah.
And that's what we're recruiting now to fill diversity boxes. We're getting more and more incompetence.
Yeah.
So the woman who runs the British Transport
point,
Police...
I'm sure that is not a police directive.
No, it's not. It's illegal. You can say whatever you want on the street.
It's just a very thick woman saying a stupid thing.
But how did she become a police officer?
Because that is a very germane point. Yeah.
But the Chief Constable, the British Transport Police, again, females more compassionate, more tolerant, more, kumbaya, let's all have group hugs. And those traits are sneaking into these institutions where we need more masculinity, not more femininity. Hence why we get silly stuff like that.
Yeah.
We can't get black Africans to join the British Transport Police. Oh dear, do you know what? Let's send some to university to be lawyers. My conscience is clear now.
Yeah.
And that is the bigotry of low expectations. That the only way we can improve the lives of black people in the UK is by throwing money at them.
Mm. It's interesting what you said about the police. I think I might have told you this story before, but I don't think I've said it on the podcast. I think a Romanian football team came to play in London.
Yep.
And the Romanian fans are pretty tough guys. Yep. And they were causing trouble towards the end of the match. The Metropolitan Police came to sort them out, and the Romanian guys chased them away.
Chased them away?
they just, and the police scarpered.
Yeah.
They were scared of them. They couldn't handle them, and they just ran, basically.
And misgendered some of the police officers. But they're still getting therapy for that.
And this is the British police force we have now. They can be chased away by some Romanian guys.
You've seen videos online now where you've got 4 officers, usually 2 women, 2 men, trying to arrest a 17-year-old youth, and they can't hold him.
Yeah, they can't physically hold him. Yeah,
it's just pathetic. It's like you shouldn't be police officers.
Yeah.
You're not capable to do the job.
Yeah.
And it's even more dangerous in the fire service.
Yeah.
You've got an 8-stone woman trying to pull out a 16-stone man from a burning fire.
Yeah.
And with lowered recruitment standards in the fire service, well, to get more women joining, they're not strong enough. The vast majority of them, and they're going to cost people their lives. So
this thing in the British Transport Police then is basically a symptom of the fact of the way they employ people now.
Yeah, they were 20 years ago, they were the best force I worked with, the British Transport Police. All their officers were excellent. Their PCSOs were fantastic. Were better than some of GMP's full police officers. I'm very disappointed in them.
So talking about law and order, something which I'd be interested to hear your opinion on and how it happened, which is the Nottingham killer.
Yep.
Are you aware of this?
Yep.
So this is a black guy. It's academic that he's black, actually. I just mentioned he's a black guy who was a schizophrenic.
Yeah.
Had severe mental health issues. However, was sufficiently organised to gather a number of weapons, do a bit of planning, and then ended up killing 3 people. I think it was 2 young people and a guy of 65. So he killed this. It was last June, I think he did it. But the CPS, Crown Prosecution Service, who, by the way, my daughter used to work for, they changed his charges from murder to manslaughter.
Yeah.
And the sentence he was given in the end, you may know more about the detail than I, there was an indefinite order for him to be detained in a high security hospital,
Yeah.
basically. But my understanding is it's very likely he can be released from that at some point, and then
If he gets the right doctor signing him off, he can be out within 3 years.
3 years. So the family of this have basically said, you know, justice has not been served here. This guy killed our young kids, and they killed this older guy, and potentially he can be out in 3 years' time. So was justice served there?
Forget justice. He's still a danger.
Mm.
He's a schizophrenic, violent criminal. Now, was justice served? No, it wasn't. The only way justice is served there is if we hang him.
Mm.
Then I say justice was served. What we've done in this country over many decades now, again, it's the woke stuff again.
Yeah.
Mental
By
health.
the way, I don't agree with capital punishment. But
Yeah,
yeah.
I do. And I'd pull that lever for free several days a week
Right,
as a
okay.
volunteer.
That may be a job that,
Yeah.
that comes up. I don't know.
But the mayor can't implement that, so don't
Oh, you
worry,
can't- yeah.
Greater Manchester. I won't be
Yeah.
implementing
Yeah,
it.
that's not on your list of policies.
No,
I'm
that's
being
some.
puzzled by this stuff. So, yeah.
So is it justice? No. But because of this woke agenda, mental health now is seen at the same level of racism, of disability. So mental health now, you've got people online
But that's an interesting.
on Facebook who will put in their bio ADHD, neurodivergent.
They celebrate
their
mental illness.
Celebrate their mental illness. It's something to be, not to be proud of, but to be accepting of. I'm bipolar, motherfucker. I'm sorry, did I say motherfucker? Sorry, I'm just bipolar. So, and we've introduced this into the criminal law. So I don't care if someone is mentally ill when they commit a crime. They've still committed a crime. And the fact they're mentally ill tells me, but they're probably more of a danger than if they weren't mentally ill and committed a crime. And I don't think your state of mind should have any play whatsoever in the criminal justice system in this country. I think he should be locked up for life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or, if you have psychiatrists saying he's fine now to be released, we should have them sign contracts that if he offends again, they personally will be held accountable for his crimes. Can I tell you what? No one will sign him off then.
Yeah.
And we've had this conversation before, we need to start giving some of these civil servants, some of these people who run these institutions, skin in the game.
Mm.
So when they make the wrong decision, it affects them in their career at some point.
Yeah.
So that man you released last year for that triple homicide, who you said's on tablets now, he's not taken his tablets for a week and he's now just killed 2 children. You're now being charged with corporate manslaughter because your failed diagnostics led to this death. And we need to start holding people. We're never going to have that. Hence why he just needs locking up forever.
So what you said there is actually quite interesting, because what you're talking about here is identity politics effectively pervading now the criminal justice system.
And it has with lots of things, but people still don't realise mental health is one of those things.
Because you're right, I think the mental health thing is pervasive in identity politics now. And we have people like Harry talking about his mental health and all, and William as well talks about his mental health, doesn't he? And it has become, and if we go back to the transvestite thing as well, that's a mental health issue, which has become acceptable to a level of society, or to an element of society, as something that is to celebrate, basically. But what you're saying here is actually quite interesting. You're saying, because I hadn't actually thought about that, I was just interested in your views, because I know you feel strongly about certain law and order things. I was interested in your views on whether the sentence was just, but what you're actually saying is the reason it's gone that way, in your opinion, is because the identity politics around mental health is actually giving them effectively leeway to behave in a certain way. That's what you're saying.
It's absolutely identity politics, and that's why. So let's say you're a white, straight, cis male in this country. Nothing special about you. You get no protection. But you know what? If you say you're trans, or if you don't go that far because you don't like dresses, but let's say you still want some protection Well, you're manic depressive. You're anxious. You're depressed. You're neurodivergent.
Neurodivergent, that's the big thing,
You're bipolar.
Yeah.
You're something. You can make some up because most of these things really don't exist anyway.
Yes.
They're all made up.
Yeah.
And then you're special. Then you've got a reason why you're failing at work. You've got a reason why you're lazy. You've got a reason why you can't get promoted. You've got a reason why you think everyone's picking on you, no one likes you. It's because they're anti-neurodivergent.
Yeah.
So it's victimhood culture again.
Yeah.
But it's an easy one if you're plain white, stale, heterosexual.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the only thing I can grasp to be different and to be one of the special people.
Yeah. No, my sister-in-law used that term, neurodivergent, describing one of her relatives, her other relatives, basically.
Yeah.
I can't remember what she said, but I've not really heard, I have heard it being used, but is that kind of the umbrella term now for people who've got mental issues?
Yeah.
But to apply that label to somebody in the immediate family who, without any kind of medical training or whatever, it's an easy thing to do, isn't it now?
I would say that family member has told her they're neurodivergent. She's just using the correct, knowing you're after this conversation, there's no way she would label somebody.
Yeah.
She is using the label that they told her to use for them.
Oh, so they might have said...
I'm neurodivergent.
Yeah, or little Tommy's neurodivergent. I think, I can't remember who she's talking about, but little Tommy's neurodivergent.
She wouldn't use that label herself without permission of using that label to someone.
But to bandy these labels around is serious. Because I think that you're right about the ADHD thing. A lot of people now, I think I've done it, say he's probably a bit ADHD or he's an obsessive compulsive or whatever. But there's no diagnosis here. But people are now labelling themselves quite happily, whereas when we were young, it was embarrassing to admit you had any kind of mental illness or anything like that.
And now we celebrate it.
Yeah.
So because we celebrate it, of course more people have it.
Yeah.
Because Jimmy gets a round of applause.
Yeah.
Jimmy gets time off work. Jimmy gets special treatment after manager because he's neurodivergent.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I'm feeling a little bit now neurodivergent myself.
Jimmy gets a reduced sentence, doesn't he?
Yeah. I'm not saying for one, he's mental. I'm not saying for one moment he's playing the card.
No. But is the reduced sentence a direct result of the recognition of this empathy around mental illness? Because your view, I think, is correct. I don't give a stuff whether he's got mental, he's a schizophrenic or whatever. The guy needs to be locked away for life. He's killed 3 people. Yeah. You know, I don't know if they do it now, but when dogs used to attack children,
one bite, put them down.
You didn't do a psychoanalysis of the dog to see if he had schizophrenia or needed particular training. It was put them down because they're a danger. Yeah. They're a danger to society. He is a danger to society, isn't he?
And should be put down.
And should be put down. No,
almost had
you trapped me there, yeah. He should be locked away. Yeah. Because he's a danger to society. That should be the prevailing decision. But something else has happened here, which is
the normalisation of mental health as an excuse for having low morals, a low work ethic, for for poor behaviour. It's a new way of explaining away your faults.
Yeah.
And that's seeped into our criminal justice system, and it's creeped into HR. How many people I know who are off sick with anxiety? Anxiety. Do you know what anxiety is? Anxiety is your body telling you need to do something about your life. That's anxiety. It's a warning system. Same with depression. Depression is your body telling you life's not going well here. You need to make changes. You need to work out what's going wrong and do some changing. What we do now is, I've got anxiety and depression. Right, give me some tablets, doctor. I want to quell those feelings. I want to push them all the way down because I don't want to do the hard work of improving my life.
And I think it's interesting to say this, I have no evidence at all, so I'm just speculating now, but I think in the public sector, applying these terms to yourself or getting them used is far more prevalent than in the private sector. Because I think in the private sector, this is my own experience, if somebody starts saying I've got anxiety, I've got stress or whatever, you get rid of them quickly because you haven't got time to run your business. You need people in the business to run your business. And if there's a capability issue like that, they will leave the business generally within a short period of time. I think in the public sector, I think you can stay in that situation for a long time.
Forever.
Yeah. We have a relative in Canada, and if they're watching this, they'll know who they are, so all other people will know as well. She's a teacher. She claimed she was under stress, and then travelled around the world.
To de-stress.
Yeah, travelled around the world with full pay as a teacher because she was under stress, basically. And we'd be getting cards from, I'm in Madeira, I'm in, I'm in Germany, whatever.
And that's why our public services don't provide any real benefit to anybody anymore now. Public sector is now just a recruitment arm to keep people employed so politicians can win elections. They don't provide anything. I had a police officer contact me a couple of weeks ago now. He remained, and have I told you this before?
No. Was this to do with the restraining order?
No. And he was saying,
that's a joke.
Great Manchester Police, he said, if you sacked 15 to 20% of the worst officers...
you did tell me, yes, you did tell me.
He said, and not replace them, Great Manchester Police would do better.
Yes.
Because we've just got hangers on all the time.
Yeah.
People who know how to play the system. We've got managers who are going, do you know what, I don't want to sack him because I might get into trouble. And I'm being paid anyway. Why am I sticking my neck up? And this goes through all our public services. And it's creeping into the private sector now. It's hard to sack people in the private sector now with mental health issues. It's harder than it was.
Yes, it was. Yes, it is. Yeah. Not that I'm sacking lots of people with none. So, we've covered that about the 20% before. I think the question I didn't ask you is, if you become the mayor of Greater Manchester, how would you do that? Would you have the power as the mayor of Greater Manchester to sack 20% of the police force?
No, but the chief constable has.
Right.
And if he doesn't, I'll be sacking him.
Oh, so you appoint the chief constable?
Yes. He's the only member of the police force I can sack.
Right, okay.
Is the chief constable.
So you sack him. If he doesn't do it, he's gone.
Sack him and I'll get somebody
You
else.
say, right, Fred, I'm interviewing for the job.
This is what I want.
This is what I want.
Yeah.
Are you happy with that? Right, you've got the job. Yeah.
So what I'm going to say to Chief Constable is, who are the people you'd love to sack from the force? Who are the people in your top team you've inherited and you've given them all the crap jobs? Let's not sack them. Let's give them early retirement. Let's see what I'm not saying sacking people illegally. No, we would need the right evidence of them underperforming, incompetence, failing, and we'll sack him. Same with all your other ranks. Let's get rid of all the deadwood. Let's either sack him if we can. Let's tell them we don't want you anymore. So we're either going to look to sack you, or you can take retirement now, or we'll buy you out. So no matter how we do it, I want the deadwood gone, and then we can then fill those places with people from the new recruitment strategy I'll be initiating, and that's how we turn around the police. And if these people want to take us to court, take us to court.
Yeah.
We'll lose some cases, that's fine, we'll pay them off in court.
Yeah.
It's all taxpayers' money anyway. I'd rather get rid of them now and pay them some money next year.
If you did get the number of people that actually took you to court, even the cost of paying those off would be less than the cost of not having employed them for that period of time.
Exactly.
So you don't.
And the productivity goes up in the police.
Yeah.
And then all the other police officers then go, oh, thank you, Nick, Mayor. You've made my job easier because I'm not having to deal with all these idiots anymore. Yeah. They get a bump in professionalism, in wanting to do the job because that mayor's serious now about the police force. Look, he's getting rid of the crap.
I think if that happened and you did that, I think that would send a massive message across the country.
The whole country.
The whole country. Yeah. And I think a lot of people in the country would be going, thank God, somebody who's finally doing something.
And lots of people would be trying to stop me.
Oh yeah.
Because if I can do it here, it means you can do it anywhere.
Yeah. If you did that and got away with it.
Start sacking people for incompetence. That mayor's mental.
Yeah. But the ramification, I think I would say the majority of the non-public sector, and maybe even the majority of the public sector employed people, would celebrate that.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of that's like, they'll be thinking, yes, that's exactly what we need to happen across the country.
We need to give public servants skin in the game. This isn't a job for life anymore now. You can't cut it, go.
It is a job for life at the moment.
Yes, it is.
Moving on to another subject, speaking of jobs to life, and all these issues we've talked about now. There's an article in The Spectator by Richard Dawkins. You know who Richard Dawkins is, hopefully.
The atheist.
The atheist, the well-known atheist. Yeah. So he's going to New York in May to a conference, and one of the people he will be debating with is a lady who, you might have met her because I know you meet loads of people, Ian Hershiali.
I've not met her, but I know her, yeah.
So Ian Hershiali is Somalian by birth, raised as a Muslim in a very oppressive, apparently Somali Muslims are pretty kind of...
Yeah. Well, they're just
draconian.
opposite Saudi Arabia, aren't they?
Yeah. So it's a pretty draconian Islamic society, and women are treated pretty brutally. She managed to get away from Somalia, went to Holland. Yeah. I'm not sure whether she's educated in Holland or whether she was already... I'm not quite sure about it, but she was... She
went to university in Holland, got her first degree in Holland.
Right. Went on from that, very bright lady, went on from that, became an MP in Holland.
Yeah.
Then one of her colleagues in Holland was murdered because she's very anti-Islam. Yeah. Very anti-Islam because of what she saw in Somalia and the way she saw women particularly being treated by that. Travelled from there to America, living in America, which she must consider to be a more liberal society. And was renowned in America as a journalist, but particularly as an atheist. And Christopher Hitchens, again, who you will know, who's unfortunately died now, fantastic speaker. I've been fascinated to see what he will be saying about all the things that are happening at the moment, because he was, but Christopher Hitchens, very anti-Islam, very anti-religion, atheist. So she was part of that group, along with Dawkins and all these characters. So she's a very well-known figure within the atheist community, an anti-Islamic community as well. She's just announced she's a Christian. Yeah. So she's come full circle, really. Yeah. She was obviously a Muslim, renounced being a Muslim, became a very committed atheist, all that. And now she's come back and said she's a Christian, and she's also going to be debating with Dawkins. Dawkins thinks a lot of her, by the way. He's a massive fan of her, so I think it'll be a friendly discussion. But these are intellectuals discussing things. So the reason I've raised this is for two reasons. One is, I don't know if I told you, but I now call myself a Christian. I don't believe in God, but I call myself a Christian. And the reason I call myself a Christian is because I was raised as a Christian.
You're a cultural Christian.
I'm a cultural, that's probably the correct phrase. Yeah. But if people say to me, what religion are you? I used to say I've got no religion. Yeah. Now I actually say I'm a Christian. Yeah. But what I mean is what you just said, I'm a cultural Christian, because I understand that the morals, and a lot of the morals are my focus, the way I think about things, is a result of Christian teaching.
The whole West.
The whole West. Yeah. There's a very famous historian called Tom Holland, not the actor. Yeah. So he has written extensively on this, and he has used the phrase, we're goldfish swimming in a Christian sea or a Christian bowl or water or whatever. What he has the same philosophy that, by the way, he's not announced himself as a Christian, but what he's saying is, he's saying the ethics, the morals, the principles that we have in most of Western society is Christian, and I've kind of embraced that. And I've actually, I don't think I told you, I actually went to church 2 or 3 times in the past few months. I stopped going because they've got a bunch of kids there making a load of noise, so I'm not really having the chance to reflect. I just want to go there and reflect on things rather than... Yeah. And some of the stories are actually quite good, some of the parables and things.
They've all got meanings.
Yeah, they've all got... So I found it actually quite interesting. It's just the kids were... for some reason they've got allow kids to run around, and it kind of distracts me when I'm in the church. So there's what Ian Hershiali's done there. There's what Tom Holland's saying. There's my particular shift back to Christianity, which was there. So I think and just going back over everything we've discussed today, my belief is that if we had those Christian values, or embraced the Christian values, or had sustained the Christian values we had when we were younger, a lot of the things we're seeing now would not be happening. That's my belief, and I'm asking you if you think that is the case.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know who said this, but someone said there's a God-shaped hole in our lives, because religion in the West is dying, Christianity is dying. And almost all our conversations, I go back to tribalism, and I will do it again now with religion. Religion, for me, is an extension of the tribal leader. So we obeyed the tribal leader when we lived in small tribes. He looked after us, he was in charge. But it makes sense that there must be someone above him, and that's where I think the creation of God came from. It might be started off with the the elements, the local volcano erupting, the earthquakes. There's something controlling our lives and the ground and the world, and that's how we developed a sense of God. Part of me wishes I was religious, and I'm like you, I'm a cultural Christian because we live in a Christian country, you know, all our ethics and morals and stories and history is all connected to Christianity. But because I wasn't raised like that, I find it very hard to believe in a creator. It's like, no, it's all science. Someone like Kirstie Alley, she was raised a Muslim, so believed in God.
Yeah.
And I can understand her rejecting that because of what she saw around her. And I can understand her finding God again. Because when you look at the world, when you look at what happens, it's like, how do you explain everything? And we can't, I mean, our scientists now can hardly explain anything. The average person on the street thinks our scientists know everything. They'll tell you, we know hardly anything. Once we think we know something, we look around the corner and it's like, oh, there's more stuff here. We thought we thought the atom was the smallest thing in the world until someone broke it in two and went, what's all the crap inside here? So we're always learning new stuff, and it's like, it's so enormous. I can understand people going, there must be a creator. Someone must have created all this. This cannot be an accident. How did we develop the eye? That can't be natural selection. You know, and all these things, there's so many questions we don't understand that I can understand people thinking there must be something bigger above us. But when we look at our society now since the post-war, Second World War, the loss of religion has mean we've all become more and more individualistic. Our lives matter, no one else's lives matter. We're not looking at the community spirit of where we live now. We don't look after each other anymore now because someone else will do. We don't even have to look after our old people. We dump them in the homes. All this would have been not controlled. All this would have been influenced if we were more religious. We would have had more respect for our old people, for our neighbours, for our community. We would have coalesced community cohesion around the church. We might not like our neighbours, but we all sit together on a Sunday. That would have tied us together. And religion ties us together, and we've lost that. I don't know what the replacement is. I really don't. I can't see us ever getting it back, and I don't know what the replacement is.
So you do think it is the loss of our religion has impacted on all these things we're talking about in terms of part of the reason we embrace that.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's the main driver.
No,
I'm just saying it's one of many reasons of why.
One factor. And I suppose then the question to ask, because you and I have lived through this, haven't we? Why has religion died in this country as it has?
I think it's because our lives got better and better and better and better. When your life is awful and you're scared of dying and your children dying, why wouldn't you turn to God? You might as well try God, because your life's so bad anyway. But the more comfortable we've got and the more science have done things for us, the more we've gone, I don't really need a God, do I? I've got science. My life's getting better, and I don't even believe in God, and my life's getting better. That must prove there isn't a God. It's all hocus pocus. I mean, I look at the book, the Bible, or any religious book. God, it's telling me what I can't do, and I want to do what I want to do. So I'll reject that now because science is better. And a good way of looking at this we're getting quite a lot of converts now in the UK to Islam.
Well, that was the next question I was going to ask, because on the one hand you argue that the reason we are becoming less religion is because life is getting better.
Yeah.
But then that should apply across all religions, but we're seeing the re-emergence of Islam. Now bear in mind, I might get my dates wrong, but I think Islam was incredibly powerful between sort of 500 AD to 1200 AD. There was a massive Islamic empire stretching right across to Spain, all across the Mediterranean.
Almost came into Europe, but it came into the Baltics, and it got stopped in the Baltics, and the French stopped it at the Pyrenees.
Now that empire and that religious strength eroded, and the main reason it eroded is because of the strictures of the Islamic scholars. They didn't embrace printing. They basically said we've got to, they adopted a highly pedantic view of the Quran, and that's what caused the empire to collapse and disappear basically, and Catholicism, Christianity re-emerged and reinvigorated. I kind of accept your reason for Christianity having declined in our lifetimes. Yeah. But why is Islam not declining? Why is Islam re-emerging? Because as you say, why would that religion re-emerge, become predominant? There's talk now. I mean, Rob the American talks about. He says, "You guys have got to be careful. This is going to be a caliphate. If you're not, in the UK, why is that re-emerging?" So
Islam's growing across the world because it's mainly based in the poorest countries in the world. So again, the worse your life is, the more likely you are to turn to religion for the answer and some comfort. Even though you're suffering, well, God's going to look after me in the next life. That's quite comforting when you've got nothing in this life. Islam's growing in this country mainly down to mass immigration and the fact that Muslims have more children in general. Now, the conversion to Islam in this country is something worth discussing. The ones I've seen tend to be working class white lads, inner cities, poverty, no father at home, no direction in life, involved in crime, in jail, all these different strands. And when you look at Islam, Islam tells you we've got all the answers and this is the path. And it's a tough path and you will do as you're told. That's quite appealing to young men who are looking for a father figure, a path in life, been rejected by their own community. Christianity in the West now is pink and fluffy and crap. We've got transsexuals now in church giving out sermons. We've got women doing it. We've got pride flags in most of our churches. And young, tough men are going, I don't want any of that. I want a manly religion. Well, Islam's the manly religion if you want, because and so there's that belonging. Hence why religions were appealing in the first place. The tribal is somewhere to belong to. You will be accepted. We don't care about your race, colour, education. We'll embrace you. You're part of our brotherhood now. Anyone on this estate picks with you now. You're a Muslim. They pick with all of us. Yeah. It's basically part religion, part gang affiliation, especially in the prisons. Yeah, it's totalitarian, isn't it? As a religion. The Christian religion is not totalitarian. It's kind of, It used to be. Yeah, the Catholic. Yeah, I mean, if you think about the Catholic Church. Yeah, the Crusades and all that. Yeah, Spanish Inquisition. But the Islam is a totalitarian religion, and I think you've talked about apostates before. Yeah. If you drop out of Islam, you're an apostate. Aren't you? You've got to adhere. And we'll kill you because we don't want anyone else dropping. Correct. Yeah, exactly. And that's actually part of. I understand that's part of Islam. That the idea is that. If you're not part of Islam, you've got to be killed. That's part of it. So that's possibly what attracts them as well. That kind of very rigid, very kind of, this is the way to be. And yeah, you're right. Yeah, structure, a path, a father figure, belonging, knowing they've got your back. Because I live in a tough neighbourhood. I live in a tough jail. I need people. And is that your personal experience? You're seeing young white men converting to Islam? Only from what I'm reading in the press and online and stuff like that. I'm personally not seeing it, no. Yeah. It's quite common now for white young lads now to post a video of them converting. Oh really? Yes, you see it on Twitter all the time. So it is. I'm seeing it on social media. I didn't know that. And then we had the craze a couple of months ago of white middle class women in America and the UK going, I'm joining Islam. I read the letters of Osama bin Laden and he's right, America is evil, and I'm going to join Islam, and I'm gay and non-binary and we're joining Islam, and a couple of months later we're all on line up, I've left Islam now. Like, no shit, Sherlock.
I didn't know that. That's American women, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not
A couple
aware
of months
of
ago I had a real big boost.
Right.
Because I thought it was trendy to say you convert into Islam, until they started doing it and then realised, oh,
Right.
and then said, no, I'm not joining now.
So in terms of Ironhurst Ali,
Yeah.
I suppose two questions. Do you understand why she's doing what she's doing? And the next question is, you know, should we, the disaffected people in this country, be doing the same thing? As I already have.
Yes, yeah, I think they should. And I understand what she's doing. She's got a God-shaped hole in her heart and she's going to fill it with Christianity. She's basically going to give Christianity a go.
Yes.
Because Islam was rubbish.
Yeah.
Let's give Christianity a go. And I can understand why she's picked that. Well, the best countries she's been in have all been Christian countries.
Yeah.
So let's give this religion a go. For all of us, more Christianity in our lives would be a good thing, up to a certain point, because evil people who want to manipulate others, can use religion to their own ends. That's what most people think religion starts all the wars. No, they don't. Men who use religion start all the wars. But how do we get that? Our Church of England is dying. The Church of England is like a Tory party. It needs to be put out of its misery.
Yeah.
They started ruining everything when they started taking in women bishops. All these things started.
It's interesting. The church I attend, I don't want to give you the name because I don't want to cause any problems for anybody. But it is a woman vicar.
Yeah. And
she's the one who's allowed the play group to happen at the same time as the sermon. Now,
over compassionate, over tolerant.
Yeah.
She can't look into the future of she's damaging her own church.
Yes.
And attracting more people because she's only concerned with the here and now
and
people's comfort.
Yes.
And
so I think somebody said to her, "Oh, our kids have got nowhere to go."
Yeah.
Whereas when we were kids, we went to Sunday school around the corner from the church, but the main.
They sat there and behaved in silence.
Sat and behaved, yeah. But they're actually running around banging toys, all that sort of stuff, and even the older most of the people in church are old, older, even older than me, believe it or not, and they're up there. You can see them looking around.
It's annoying. It's annoying their concentration and their contemplation of life.
Correct. You're going there for a reason, aren't you? To listen to the stories, to think about, to reflect, or whatever. But whether it's the fact she's a woman, I don't know. But
even the male priests are all like that now. So they're all like that.
Yeah. But you're right. So to me, it's kind of, well, here's somebody potentially who could become a regular member of church. And to be fair, the vicar came to see me every time I went. I thought, "Oh, are you enjoying everything all right?" Well, I should have said no, I'm not. But so they're obviously desperate to get people in. There weren't many people there.
They're dying.
But that's part of the reason they're dying.
Because they're not. We need to look at them as a business. How long do you run the business that has a dwindling customer base? Luckily for most of churches, they own the buildings. Their overheads are low to a certain extent. But they must be looking at the congregation the last 50 years going, we're doing something wrong.
Yes.
And the more they do the things they think they should do, the lower the congregation. They're blind to their own decisions, making the situation worse. Some churches are doing amazing. You go to some of the gospel churches or Black African churches, they're doing amazing. What are they doing differently? And unless we can offer the people of this country something valid, something they value in church, they won't go.
Yeah.
And we're not offering them anything. We're not offering the young anything.
Yeah.
If you could have a church that was preaching to young men about family and your responsibility, And it's your job to make sure your children get to school and are fed. It's your job. It's not the state's job. It's not God's job. And God will judge you if you fail your children. And be a man and take responsibility. And to the women, stop having children with 9 guys, because it's damaging all those children because they don't know their fathers.
Yeah.
Stop doing it. And they're walking out there going, that's the path I need to take.
Yeah.
That's the path I need to take. They need to do, I'm not saying that'll work, I don't know, but they need to do something different, because what they're doing is dying.
So you're potentially talking about going back to a Christianity of, maybe the 19th century, which is far stricter, far more kind of not totalitarian, but basically instructive.
Gives you the rules you need to live your life by. If you don't like those rules, don't come to this church.
Far more regimented.
Yes.
In the way, and it's what's interesting. I'm just thinking about this. You're talking about young white guys going to Islam. It's probably quite trendy as well.
Oh, Islam, of course.
But it wouldn't be trendy to say I've converted to Christianity. It's not really trendy at the moment, is it?
No.
Whether Ayaan Hirsi Ali is beginning that trend, or is a sign that that's beginning, because I am hearing more about it as time passes in terms of people talking about Christianity.
Don't forget, trends don't last.
Yeah.
So if people start converting because it's a trend, then it's a blip on a map.
There needs to be substance there.
Yeah, the churches have to change and have to offer something to those people who attend. They need to work out what their message is, and their message since the war has been, our message is whatever you want our message to be.
Yeah.
Are you happy? Are you comfy? Don't worry about that sin. Don't worry about it, because God loves you anyway.
Yeah.
There's no benefit in that. You can stay at home and tell yourself those messages.
That's true.
People need structure in their lives because it helps them traverse life. You don't have to worry about lots of things, because you don't have to decide, do I do this or don't I do this? Should I do this a bit? Should I do the... If you've already got those rules from church, you can forget those questions because you know the answer, you've been told the answer. And it helps you then concentrate on the rest of your life. That's why people used to be happier. It's not because they were richer, because they weren't. It was because their lives were simpler, because lots of their decisions were made by the church, and you only have to concentrate on a lot fewer things. When you go through life and every minute you've got to make a decision and you've got to evaluate, is that the right or wrong decision? How's that going to influence me tomorrow, next year, 10 years from now? And every second you're making a decision like that, even tiny decisions have consequences. Life's tiring.
Yes.
That's why everyone now reports being tired. Why everyone's on antidepressants, why people are saying they're anxious, depressed. They've got too much to think about.
Lots of decisions to make.
Lots of decisions all the time about everything. Because there's no path to tread now. You've got to make your own path. With your dad's machete, cutting it all down and making your own path. And it's hard work.
So, based on that, I'm not sure whether we're going to be seeing you baptised on a video very shortly. So, possibly.
If it gets me 250,000 votes, yeah.
So we've just seen Nick prostitute himself there for Christianity. So speaking of conversion, my last but one subject here, conversion, trends, religions, Reform UK. So apparently, I don't know the stats, you probably might know better than I do, the support is at a record high for Reform UK, and there's talk of Tory MPs what was I looking for?
Jumping ship
to Reform UK. I think you know Richard Tice, don't you? So and Farage, you know Farage as well.
Yeah.
So we've talked about voting and difference and everything like that before, but does the fact that they're getting this record vote numbers of percentages, does it actually mean anything? Will it mean anything?
It doesn't mean anything until the ballots of the election are counted. The latest poll I've seen was 16%.
Which is a lot.
Which is a lot. The Tories are only on 23 or something.
Really?
But on average now, Reform are getting 12-13% on average. So the 16 was a bit of a peak, but peaks go up and down time. But what they're doing well, the polling now says they're the third party. They're constantly just beating the Lib Dems now, all the time. So that's good for them. Will it convert to MPs at the election? Will they keep going up? Polling is a strange beast, because when you're speaking to a pollster, you tend to give the answer in the spur of the moment. So, will you vote for reform in the general election? Well, I hate Labour, hate Tories. Yes, I will. Oh, that looks really good. At polling day, you're stood in that polling booth. Who do I vote for? Right, I'm not voting Labour. Right. If I vote Tory, if I vote Reform, and that stops the Tory guy winning, we're going to get Labour. So fear kicks in then, and then people go back to their normal habits. Same with, a Labour voter. I want to vote Reform, but if I vote Reform, the Tories might get in here. So it all goes back to that. So we don't know what they're going to do on the day. Hence why polls are interesting, but are not science. We've got our system in the UK is first past the post, and that really punishes small parties.
Yeah.
We had UKIP got 4 million votes a few elections ago and got one MP.
Scandalous.
And that MP was a Tory MP who jumped ship and then stood at the election under you. So he was already a known person with a track record of being an MP. That's probably the only reason they got him. So our first past the post system punishes those parties. Reform are definitely going to help destroy the Tory party, and for that I'm happy. If that means we get a Labour government, so be it. Labour government may be worse than the Tory government, probably will be worse, but you know what? We're sinking anyway, we're dying anyway.
Yeah.
And hopefully 5 years of a Labour government will show the country that socialism doesn't work. So this dream we've had for the last 15 years of more socialist policies, we want this, we want that, they'll teach us that lesson, just like why Thatcher got elected. The 70s were awful in this country because of socialism.
Yeah.
And then that will give the Tories 5 years in opposition, maybe to sort themselves out and turn into a proper Conservative party with policies the normal person want, and get rid of all those MPs who are just wets, who are just Blairites, who are just a waste of space. If the Reform manage to win a few seats, then that's a game changer. If they can get some, a few people in there, but we don't know, and I don't know. I'll just be guessing.
I think I think your point is valid that the main thing they're going to do is help destroy the Tories, which I agree is a good thing.
Yeah.
I also agree destroying Labour is a good thing as well. I think, my views now that both those parties need to actually just be, what they need is a leader who's going to say, I'm winding up the party. That's what they need, both of them, but I don't think that'll ever happen. However, what I think could happen is if there's sufficient dialogue, enough Tory MPs then sitting Tory MPs go across into Reform. I think that could and I think that, from what I'm reading in the papers, I think that's what they are trying to make happen.
We have this story every year.
Do we?
For the last 4 years now, we have this story that Tory MPs are going to jump ship to Reform, and
because that happened with the SDP, didn't it?
Yes, SDP was different. There was a split, so those people left Labour, those 4 big beasts, and went, we're setting up a new party called the SDP. Yeah. And they had a big impact in the 80s. But what happened, what killed them, Labour started changing policies and took all their ideas. And Labour then became that party. Yeah. Again, if...
In the same way the Green Party was destroyed. The Greens started winning seats. And
because they take their policies if they're popular. And that's what I think is a big danger for Reform. So if the Tories lose and the Tories rebuild, they'll just start stealing all of Reform's policies, and there's no need for Reform anymore. It'd be interesting to see if anybody jumped ship from the Tories to Reform, and I think that will only happen closer to the election, when those MPs are looking at the polls going, my seat's gone. But I could potentially win if I jump ship now and join Reform, because Reform are doing really well in my seat. So there'll be some working out of the maths nearer the time, and you might have some politicians who will jump because all they care about is their seat.
Yeah.
They don't care about policy, they don't care about anything. They just want to stay with their seat on 90 grand a year, being important, being part of the elite. So they'll jump ship if they think, I could end up being MP for reform.
Yeah.
So we'll see what they do.
I think that could be a possibility. If they think they're going to lose their seat if they stay in the Tory party, but they think they'll keep it if they're in reform, I think that could be a decision.
I think they'll jump then.
Yeah.
If it's, I'm going to lose no matter what seat, I might as well lose as a Tory.
Yeah.
Because the Tories will have me back at some point if they're back into power.
But as we're talking now, I've noticed that Farage is kind of been very kind of non-committal about whether he's going to step back into reform.
He won't this side of election.
Yeah. I just wonder if that's a ploy by him and Richard Tice
to keep everyone on edge, to keep them all guessing,
I wonder if behind the scenes Farage is talking to some of these MPs.
I'm sure they are.
Because I actually think now, and I think they've worked it out, if Farage became head of reform, I think that would be negative for reform. Tice is, he's not ultra charismatic, but he's a safe pair of hands to head that party, I think.
Yeah.
So he's acceptable as the head of reform, and people aren't really associating him that much with UKIP and Farage. Yeah. Farage has got a lot of baggage, I think. So I think Farage is maybe working behind the scenes, talking to MPs, saying, listen guys, this is the way, this could be a way forward. And then he may, if they win seats, he may then re-emerge as somebody who's very important. It's because he's been very wishy-washy, isn't he, saying, I'm enjoying my life. He loves politics, that guy.
He does, but he's stood for MP now 7 times.
Yeah, I don't think he'll ever be an MP.
And has lost everyone. Why? Because everybody else pulls out the guns when he stands.
Yeah.
Nobody wants him to win.
Yeah.
So therefore, everybody goes into overdrive to make sure he doesn't win that by-election or that election. So he's sick of losing, which is understandable. It's not nice to lose an election. He also understands that if he became leader of reform, they'd have a big jump in the polls. But he'd never get higher than that.
Yeah.
Because he still has a bit of baggage. And also, I think he's keeping his powder dry to see how the land lies after this next election.
Yeah.
Because this might be one of those elections that changes politics forever.
Yeah.
We just don't know how things are going to work out.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to say to himself, I'm going to wait till the election and see what's going on there.
Yeah. He's a young guy, isn't he, in political terms? Very young. He's only 59, 60. Yeah. So, a question I'm sure our gentle listeners are burning to ask you, Nick. Given the renaissance, the revival of reform, given your political ambitions, is there a chance you may decide to stand for the mayor of Greater Manchester on a reform ticket? No.
So I stood 3 years ago.
Yes, I know.
For reform.
Yeah.
Because they were a brand new party, they had no one to stand, and I wanted to stand, so a matter of convenience, I stood under their banner. Never joined the party, so I was never a party member. That election taught me that people are sick of all the parties, and it also taught me that I'm not a party person. I'm not one to be told, these are our policies, you can't say this, don't say that, don't have those views. It's like, I don't live my life like that, so I'm not a party political person, hence why I'm standing as independent this time. I've had lots of parties approach me wanting me to stand for them, and I've been politely refused all of them. Going forward for me, as far as I can see, is independent, because once you're part of a party, you're part of a team. It's not just down to you anymore.
Yeah.
You've got to plan for things you can't think of. So you might be completely anti-green, but your party's going, we can't afford to be completely anti-green. We need some of the green vote. It's like, well, so I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to start saying, yeah, these policies are okay. It's okay if you're a politician, you want to play that game, but I've lived my life on my reputation and doing and saying what I want to do and say. And to start spouting other people now, I'm far too long in the tooth for that. So I say to people who are thinking of voting for me for Mayor of Greater Manchester, you'll get what I say you're going to get. As in, you've seen my policies, I'm going to do them. Yeah. I'm not for changing. I'm not for, suddenly something happens and the leader or the whip of the party is telling me no and they've changed our mind on that now. It's like, no, I know what I'm doing. I'm going to do what I say.
Very admirable indeed. And then finally, a man who, has no master, who doesn't idolise anybody at all, doesn't, have any kind of heroes or gods, then I think I've got to ask the question that I know a number of your listeners have raised, which is, why have you got 2 pictures of Che Guevara on the wall? Not just one, Nick.
Yeah.
Not just one picture. You've got 2 pictures of Che Guevara. And if you could, before you give me the answers why you've got the pictures there, I understand you've actually written about Che Guevara.
Yeah.
And you know something about the man. So could you tell our gentle listeners about the man himself and how, what a noble creature he was?
I've got 2 because I'm a double communist. That's why I've got 2 on there. Che Guevara is a very interesting figure in terms of why he has such wide appeal, especially across the socialist movement, because he wasn't a very nice man. He was, not only was he homophobic, he actually shot dead people for being gay. And this is well documented. You read his book, the Motorcycle Diaries, a lot of stuff in there. He also didn't like black people. He found them lazy. He thought they were worthless. He wasn't a nice man at all. The reason why I have them on my wall is because I went to Cuba on holiday for 10 days. And when I was in the airport, I buy stuff from all over the world. So, Cambodia, Africa, Thailand, the Vatican, Luxembourg, Malaysia, Jerusalem, Petra, Egypt, all over. Shell. Well, yes. Shell. That is a scallop shell. And in northern Spain, there's a cathedral called Santiago de Compostela. And that was a famous place to do pilgrimages from all over Europe. If you couldn't go to the Holy Land, that was the European version of the Holy Land. And throughout Spain, you have these tiles and brass imprints on pavements, on walls, the whole of Spain, and they all point the way of the pilgrimage.
Yes.
So if you follow them, you get to the Cathedral of Santiago.
I've heard about that. In fact,
de Compostela.
There's actually quite a famous, there's a film about it I've seen. It's a really good film. I can't remember who's in it now. Quite a famous Hollywood actor.
Yeah, so that's why I got that. But then going back to the socialists. So they worship people who are not worth worshipping. So like Chairman Mao killed 100 million Chinese. Stalin, 60 million people. Lenin, a couple of million people, if not more. And they look at these people as if they're special. And they were racist. And it's all been documented. The person who wrote the Communist Manifesto was Karl Marx and Engels. We've got a letter from Engels that he wrote to Karl Marx's daughter after Karl Marx died, who'd married a black man living in Paris. And in his council ward where he was standing to be a councillor, there was a zoo. And he wrote to Marx's daughter saying, I hope your husband's standing in the right part of Paris because there's a zoo there and he's a monkey. So he was a racist himself. But socialists and communists never talk about their leaders and their faults. They always want to talk about people like Churchill, or Washington in America. We never, they always want to talk. They always want to talk about the capitalists, never the communists. And it just shows that they're blinkered. Their view of the world is blinkered. That we will accept you being a racist if you're a communist racist.
Yeah. And Churchill has been castigated a number of times for being a racist for a number of reasons, but he's probably Britain's greatest hero, I think.
He saved Western Europe from the Nazis, from real fascists, by the way.
Yeah.
And to be a fascist, you've got to be a socialist.
Yeah. Because
they were national socialists. You've got to be a socialist to be a fascist, which he wasn't. And he's accused of all sorts of things, such as starving millions of Bangladeshis because he wouldn't send them grain. Well, he didn't send them grain because we're in the middle of World War II and we wanted the grain for our soldiers. Yeah. And sometimes there's tough decisions to be made and you're trying to save the right people, especially if in the war. It wasn't because he was a racist. He didn't hoard the grain and not send it to anyone.
And I think the thing about Churchill as well, he had such a long career and did so much. There's always going to be examples within that career of things that may not be perfect. Whereas Che Guevara didn't live very long, but in the time he was alive, he managed to sort of line up homosexuals and shoot them. He
Yeah.
was racist or whatever. But you don't see people walking around with T-shirts with Churchill, picture of Churchill on. But you do see
Yeah.
lots of people,
Yeah.
especially when I was at university, lots of people wearing Che Guevara T-shirts.
And that's because we're ignorant when it comes to history.
Yes.
We just see him as a freedom fighter
Yeah.
who saved Cuba and
Yeah.
fought, and saved Bolivia.
Yeah.
Having him on your T-shirt is a bit like having Himmler or Goebbels
Yes.
on your T-shirt.
Yes.
Because they're roughly the same people, evil, nasty individuals.
Yeah.
But you'd find nobody with a Himmler T-shirt walking around the UK.
Yes.
But we still find him on T-shirts.
Yeah.
I had one as a kid, teenager.
Yeah. And you're carrying on, Nick, because obviously you've got him on your wall now. So despite knowing what he's like, knowing his legacy, you still got him there. So I think what we've suggested is you should remove those, replace it with a copy of Mein Kampf.
Yeah, which I've got on my bookcase.
Which there shows your true affiliations. So going back to Churchill and the saviour of Western Europe. If you want to save Western Europe, dear listener, please vote for Nick Buckley, MBE, in the elections for Greater Manchester, which are taking place in May of this year.
Yep, 2nd of May.
Congratulations, Nick.
Cheers.
If you like that video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell and comment. And if you like what I'm saying about running for Mayor of Greater Manchester, then stick around, tell your family, tell your friends. The only way I'm going to have a chance of winning is a grassroots movement, so be part of that movement and hit that bell. Thanks.